Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a moment when your soul whispers something terrifying. This version of you must die, not in the literal sense, but symbolically, completely, utterly, and unapologetically, because you've outgrown the excuses, the self-doubt, the destructive patterns, the shallow validation. And if you don't destroy who you were, the world will destroy who you could become. The truth is harsh, but simple. No one is coming to rescue you. No one is going to rebuild your life. That responsibility and that privilege belongs to you alone. There's power in solitude, real, raw, transformative power. Because it's when you walk away from everything, the crowd, the noise, the comfort, that you begin to meet your true self. The old you was shaped by fear, trauma, habits, and the opinions of others. But the new you, the one buried beneath layers of distraction, that version is forged in silence and fire. You must burn your past, burn the stories you've told yourself about why you can't. Burn the identity you've clung to for survival. The person who was always doubted, the one who was always too tired, too broken, too dependent, too nice, too scared. That person can't come with you. And the moment you realize that, the chains begin to crack. Isolation isn't a punishment, it's a sanctuary, a crucible. While the world sleeps, you'll rise. While they complain, you'll create. While they seek attention, you'll create. While they seek attention, you'll seek alignment. While they run from the pain, you'll mold straight into it and let it mold you. This journey demands that you walk away from the familiar, from people who don't see your worth, from environments that drain you, from thoughts that sabotage you. You rebuild by rewriting your story, one brutal, honest sentence at a time. And it's lonely. God, it's lonely. But loneliness isn't emptiness, it's space. And in that space you plant discipline. You water it with silence. You nourish it with commitment. And in time, the old you rots into the soil, and something unrecognizable blooms. You won't be the same. And you're not supposed to be. Evolution is violent. Transformation is messy. But it's the only way out of mediocrity. When you rebuild yourself alone, you stop asking for permission. You stop waiting for someone to understand your path. You stop fearing rejection because you've already accepted the only validation that matters. Your own. Don't seek to be improved. Seek to be reborn. Your rebirth begins when you bury who you were, not with regret, but with gratitude. Thank the old you for surviving. Then walk away and never look back. Because the world doesn't need more people fitting in, it needs more people breaking free. Quietly, fiercely, relentlessly, until their silence becomes louder than any applause. Start today, destroy what no longer serves you, rebuild, brick by brick, belief by belief, and when they finally see you again, they won't recognize you. And that's the point. Pain is the catalyst. It's the beginning of all transformation, though many spend their lives trying to avoid it. But what if the very thing you're running from is the key to unlocking the life you truly want? What if discomfort, instead of being an enemy, is actually your most honest friend, one that tells you the truth you don't want to hear but need to face? You see, nothing significant in your life will ever change as long as you remain comfortable. Comfort is a beautiful place, but nothing ever grows there. It dulls your instincts, it silences your ambition, and it nurtures your excuses. You get used to the way things are, even when they no longer serve you. You tolerate unfulfilling relationships, dead-end routines, negative self-talk, and toxic environments because they feel familiar, because they don't threaten you, because they don't challenge your identity. But transformation, real, permanent, soul-deep transformation, only begins when that comfort is shattered. Pain does that. Pain strips away illusions. When your heart breaks, when you fail, when you're betrayed, when you're left with no one to call and nowhere to run, that's when the masks fall off. That's when the fake smiles stop. That's when all the noise fades, and you are forced to meet yourself, raw and unfiltered. It hurts like hell, but there's a strange clarity in that kind of suffering. You begin to see how much of your life was built on fear, how many choices you made to please others, how many dreams you buried just to fit in. That realization doesn't come gently. It breaks you open, but that's exactly where the shift happens. That moment of deep pain where you feel lost, shattered, and confused is actually the threshold to your rebirth, because now, with everything broken, you finally have room to rebuild something real. Pain doesn't just come to hurt you, it comes to cleanse you, to burn away what's false, to expose what's weak, to reveal what needs to go. And when you stop avoiding pain and start learning from it, you become dangerous. You no longer fear loss because you've already lost. You no longer chase validation because pain taught you how to sit with yourself. You begin to understand that every time life pushed you to the edge, it wasn't trying to kill you, it was trying to teach you to fly. Most people don't transform because they numb the pain. They drown it in distraction, in consumption, in attention, in fake smiles and shallow conversations. But pain ignored only multiplies. It waits, it grows, it embeds itself deeper until it becomes your identity. That's why you must stop running. Turn around, face it, let it cut, let it bleed, let it expose you, because beneath the pain is power. The person you want to become will not arrive through comfort. That version of you, the one who is focused, grounded, disciplined, resilient, emerges when you walk through the fire and refuse to give up. Pain forces you to confront your limits, to question your beliefs, to let go of your ego. And in doing so, it reveals who you really are, not who you were conditioned to be. If life is hurting right now, if you feel broken, if everything is falling apart, don't rush to fix it. Sit in it, observe it, learn from it, allow yourself to feel it fully, because in that space of brokenness, a new foundation is forming, one that's not built on pleasing others, one that's not built on false confidence or shallow success, one that's real, one that's unshakable. Pain is the catalyst, not the punishment. It doesn't show up to destroy you, it shows up to introduce you to the version of yourself you've forgotten, the one buried beneath comfort, fear, and compromise. And once you meet that version, once you see what's possible beyond the pain, you'll never settle for less again. Let the pain shape you. Let it carve away everything that no longer belongs, and when it's done, rise from it, not as who you were, but as who you were meant to become, alone, rebuilt, unstoppable. The old you must die, not gradually, not politely, but fully, completely, and with intention. That version of you crafted through years of survival, fear, bad habits, and approval-seeking was necessary for who you were, but it cannot carry you to who you're meant to be. You can't rise and remain the same. You cannot build a new life with the same mindset that created your pain. Think about the person you are today. the beliefs you hold, the way you react under pressure, the stories you repeat in your mind. How many of those things are truly yours, and how many were given to you by others, by your past, your wounds, your insecurities, your environment? You weren't born afraid. You weren't born doubting your worth. You weren't born needing to please anyone. Those traits were taught, inherited, repeated, and reinforced until they felt like your identity. But identity is not fixed. It is chosen, and every time you repeat the patterns of the old you, you give life to someone you've already outgrown. The hardest part of transformation is not starting a new chapter, it's letting go of the entire book. The one where you were the victim, the one where your dreams didn't matter, the one where you always settled for less, the one where you were too afraid to be seen, too wounded to trust, too broken to fight. That book must be closed. The old you is addicted to comfort, afraid of rejection and obsessed with being understood. That version of you stays silent when you should speak, tolerates what you hate, hides your potential, and wears a mask just to fit into rooms you have outgrown. And if you let that version live too long, it will kill your future. You must choose every day, every hour, every moment to die to who you've been. Not just in thought, but in action. You must stop entertaining the old narrative. You must stop engaging with people who remind you of the person you no longer want to be. You must stop making decisions from fear. And you must burn the bridge that leads back to your former self. This is not easy. You will grieve that version, because even though it limited you, it was familiar, it was safe, it knew how to survive. But survival is not the same as living, and you're here to live. Killing the old you requires brutal honesty. It demands a willingness to confront your own lies, the ones you've whispered to yourself for years just to avoid change. I'm not ready. I'm not good enough. Maybe next year. This is just who I am. These aren't truths. They're cages. They're excuses spoken by the old you trying to stay alive. But you don't have to stay there. You don't have to be bound to who you were. You can bury the parts of yourself that are no longer aligned with your vision, and you can choose a new way forward. It won't happen overnight. The old you will resist. It will cling, it will whisper, it will beg you to return. But every time you say no, every time you take a step forward without looking back, you weaken its grip. It stops calling. And what replaces it is something powerful. A new identity, one you crafted, not inherited. A self built from intention, not reaction. Someone who walks into rooms with presence, not with permission. Someone who speaks with clarity, not with fear. Someone who leads, creates, and lives without apology. That person is already inside of you. Waiting, watching, asking if you're finally ready to let go of the past, asking if you're willing to kill who you were, to become who you could be. You must understand this. If you want to truly evolve, the old you must die, not by accident, by design, not once, again and again. Every time you meet a new level of life, you must let go of the version of yourself that's not fit to rise with you. So bury the fear, bury the self-doubt, bury the approval-seeking, bury the old habits, and walk away from the grave with intention. Because you're not here to repeat, you're here to resurrect. And the only thing standing between who you are and who you could be is your refusal to let the old you go. Solitude is the forge of power. In a world addicted to noise, attention, and constant validation, choosing to walk alone feels like rebellion. But that rebellion is necessary. because the man or woman who dares to step into silence, to detach from the chaos, is the one who finds themselves. True strength doesn't come from being surrounded. It comes from being separated. It is in that separation that you shed the false layers you've collected over the years. It is in solitude that your transformation begins. There's a sacred power that exists when no one is watching. When there's no audience to impress, no one to applaud your progress, no one to like your post or comment on your worth, you're left with only yourself. And that's when the truth arrives, because solitude doesn't lie. It strips you bare. It exposes your thoughts, your fears, your patterns. It holds up a mirror and forces you to confront what's underneath the surface. Most people avoid being alone not because they dislike the quiet, but because they're terrified of what it reveals. It's easier to stay busy, to scroll endlessly, to talk constantly, to surround yourself with distraction, because silence is uncomfortable when you're still a stranger to yourself. But that discomfort is the path to self-mastery. If you never sit with your own mind, you will never learn to control it. If you never walk alone, you will never know the strength of your own steps. Solitude isn't isolation. It isn't loneliness. It's clarity. It's where the noise stops and wisdom begins. The greatest breakthroughs in life don't come from the crowd, they come from the cave. The cave where you sit with your ambition, your wounds, your purpose. The cave where you begin to carve out the person you want to become with deliberate, intentional focus. While the world chases approval, the person in solitude builds discipline. While others look outward for answers, you look inward for direction. While they chase people, you chase growth. And that's why solitude is feared, because it breeds independence. And independence threatens every system designed to keep you dependent. Your solitude is your sanctuary. It's where you develop resilience. It's where your habits sharpen. It's where your spirit toughens. When you spend enough time alone, you begin to realize that peace isn't found in the presence of others. It's found in the absence of needing them. You begin to see that your energy is sacred, your time is valuable, and not everyone deserves access to your inner world. Some of the most pivotal moments in life happen when you walk away from the noise. That's when you start to hear your own voice, not the voice of fear or the voice of the past, but the voice of clarity. You start to understand what truly matters. You stop compromising. You stop chasing shallow highs. You start living on purpose. That's the gift of solitude. It gives you back to yourself. And when you return from that solitude, you are no longer the same. You walk differently. You speak with more intention. You stop explaining yourself. You no longer need to be seen because you've seen yourself. You no longer beg for love because you've given it to yourself. You no longer fear being alone because you've turned it into your source of strength. The one who learns to be alone without losing themselves gains a power few ever understand. Because in that space, you become your own foundation. You stop leaning on unstable structures. You stop waiting for someone to save you. You realize that everything you were searching for, confidence, clarity, direction, was buried under layers of noise you never questioned. Until now. So go there, go into that space, detach from what distracts, walk away from the crowd, be alone not to escape the world, but to build the self the world could never give you. And when you emerge, you'll be untouchable. Not because you're loud, but because you're grounded. Not because you're followed, but because you lead. Not because they see you, but because you finally see yourself. Solitude isn't weakness. It is the birthplace of everything powerful. Learn to embrace it. Let it refine you. Let it teach you how to stand. Because when you rise from that silence, you will carry something no one can give you and no one can take away. Reconstruction requires ruin. You cannot rebuild a life of meaning on a foundation of lies, fears, and fragile habits. The truth is, if you want to become someone new, the version of you that exists today must collapse. It must fall apart, not as a tragedy, but as a necessary step. Just as a building must sometimes be demolished before something stronger can be built in its place, your old life, your old self, must be reduced to rubble before you can begin again with intention and truth. Ruin is not the enemy, it is the beginning. It is the clearing of dead weight, of toxic relationships, of limiting beliefs, of emotional wounds you've carried for far too long. The destruction is painful, yes. But what's more painful is staying in a structure that's crumbling beneath you, pretending it still serves you. You can't construct a powerful future while dragging the debris of your past. You can't move forward when your foundation is rotting beneath your feet. So let it fall. Let the pieces of the false self crash. Let the fragile identities you've clung to disintegrate. Let the coping mechanisms break, because only then do you see what was real and what was illusion. Only then do you understand how much of your life was built out of fear instead of purpose. Ruin is revelation. It shows you what's not working and dares you to rebuild with what is. This process will not be clean. It will not be easy. It will not be linear. When everything collapses, there is grief. There is confusion. There is silence. But it is in that silence, once the dust of destruction settles, that the blueprint of your new life begins to take form. Slowly, piece by piece, with more awareness than ever before, you start to lay a new foundation. This time, it's different. This time, you build not to please others, but to honor yourself. Not for appearance, but for authenticity. Not out of fear, but out of clarity. There's a strange kind of beauty in beginning again. You begin to appreciate the strength in simplicity. You understand the necessity of discipline, the wisdom in solitude, the power in intentional choices. And with every new brick laid, every boundary set, every morning routine kept, every temptation resisted, you prove to yourself that the ruin wasn't the end. It was the price of your awakening. People will not understand this process. They will question your silence. They will misunderstand your distance. They will label your isolation as brokenness. But you'll know the truth. You're not falling apart. You're being remade. You're not lost. You're under construction. And what's being built within you is stronger, wiser, and more grounded than anything that existed before. The greatest transformations in life often come after the greatest breakdowns, when you've lost what you thought you needed, when the future looks uncertain, when you're alone with your pain. That's the exact place where your new self is born, not in the comfort, but in the chaos. Not when everything makes sense, but when nothing does, and yet you keep building anyway. It takes courage to start from nothing, to admit that what once defined you is no longer enough, to look at the rubble of your old life and not see a failure but a foundation. But when you do, when you embrace the ruin and step into the process of reconstruction with open eyes and an open heart, you create something unshakable, not because it's perfect, but because it's real. So don't fear the collapse. Invite it. Let the false identities break. Let the weak structures fall. Because what you build next will not be for survival. It will be for strength. It will be for purpose. And when it stands, you will know that every crack, every fall, every piece of rubble was necessary. You are not broken, you are becoming. And that becoming begins the moment you stop resisting the ruin and start rebuilding with intention. Let what must fall, fall. And then rise again. Stronger, wiser, reborn. Growth in solitude is not just about peace and quiet. It is about pressure, internal pressure, the kind that builds in silence when there are no distractions left to numb you. It's in this silence that you are tested, not by others, but by yourself. Because when no one is watching, that's when it truly matters who you are. The mirror becomes sharper. The voices in your head become louder. And the question that echoes constantly is, will you rise or will you repeat? To grow alone is to face every part of yourself. The strong, the weak, the light, the dark. There's nowhere to hide when you're walking this path. No crowd to blend into, no applause to reassure you, no validation to cling to. It's just you, your thoughts, your habits, your pain, and your potential. And the distance between where you are and where you want to be is paved with choices you must make in silence. Repetition or discipline, distraction or focus, comfort or growth. People speak of growth as if it's always inspiring. But the truth is that real growth feels brutal. It strips you. It demands sacrifices. You start saying no more than yes. You start waking up earlier, thinking deeper, moving slower but with more precision. You begin to crave truth over popularity. You let go of superficial pleasures because you've tasted the clarity that comes from mental stillness. And as the world rushes ahead, chasing trends, attention and comfort, you become more rooted in the unseen grind. You learn the discipline of showing up for yourself even when no one else does. No one claps for you at 5 a.m. No one sees the tears you wipe after failing. No one documents the nights you sit alone battling thoughts most people run from. But that's where your power is being built, in the quiet moments, in the self-discipline, in the commitment to keep going when quitting would be easier. It's in solitude that the excuses fall away. You can no longer blame your environment, your past, or other people. When you are alone, the only enemy is within. And that's the most honest enemy you'll ever face. It will challenge your will. It will tempt you back into old habits. It will whisper that nothing's changing, that it's too hard, that you're wasting your time. And you must learn to silence that voice, not with argument, but with consistent action. Growth in solitude is not glamorous. It's not filled with big wins or constant motivation. It's built through repetition, through the tiny victories that no one sees, choosing water over distraction, choosing focus over scrolling, choosing to sit with discomfort rather than avoid it. Each of these moments compounds, and slowly, without you even noticing, the person you were begins to fade. The old habits lose their grip, and a new rhythm begins to take hold. People will look at your transformation one day and say it happened overnight. They'll praise your results and ignore the process. They won't see the loneliness, the discipline, the self-doubt you battled in silence. But that's okay, because you didn't grow for them. You didn't evolve to impress anyone. You did it because your soul demanded it. Because you knew deep down that the old life was too small for the person you were becoming. So keep going, even when no one claps, even when it feels like nothing's changing, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts. That's where growth hides, in the pain, in the silence, in the uncomfortable spaces, where you are left with only your choices. And every time you choose progress over comfort, you step closer to becoming someone unstoppable. Growth in solitude isn't for everyone. It's not the easy path, but it is the path that builds the kind of strength that lasts. Because when you rise from silence, you rise with something unshakable. You rise with yourself, fully formed, fully grounded, fully free. Rebuilding yourself alone requires a kind of discipline that most people will never understand. It's not just about doing hard things, it's about doing them when no one is watching, no one is clapping, and no one is coming to remind you why you started. It's waking up before the sun without an alarm, training your mind when your body is tired, keeping promises to yourself when your emotions beg for comfort. This is a path that demands self-respect, not motivation. And if you're waiting to feel inspired every day, you've already lost. Discipline is the architecture of your transformation. Without it, every plan is a fantasy. Every vision is just a wish. You may want to change, you may dream of success, you may imagine a stronger, sharper version of yourself, but only discipline turns that vision into a reality. Because discipline is not loud, it's not glamorous, it's quiet, boring, repetitive. It's showing up on the days you feel invisible. It's choosing growth over pleasure. It's sacrificing the moment for the future. Most people don't stay the course because they treat discipline like a punishment. They see it as something restrictive, something painful. But the truth is, real discipline is freedom. It frees you from being a slave to your moods. It frees you from guilt, from regret, from the chaos of always reacting to life instead of directing it. Discipline gives you power over your mind, your time, your focus. And when you control those, nothing outside of you can shake you. When you're rebuilding yourself, there will be days you feel like nothing's working, like your progress is invisible, like you're stuck. That's when most people quit, because they're addicted to visible results. They want instant feedback, instant applause, instant change. But growth doesn't work like that. Discipline teaches you to keep going, even when the results haven't arrived. Because it's not about how fast you move, it's about how consistent. You don't need a breakthrough every day. You just need to not give up. It's easy to be disciplined when life is exciting, when you're surrounded by support, when everything is going well. But real discipline is forged in the dark, when you're alone, when it's hard, when your motivation disappears. That's the discipline that changes your identity. That's the discipline that builds an unshakable mind. It's not just about doing. It's about becoming. And yes, it will be lonely. No one will see the inner war you're fighting. No one will understand why you say no to distractions, why you distance yourself from mediocrity, why you guard your time like your life depends on it. But you will understand. Because you're not rebuilding a shell, you're rebuilding a foundation. A version of yourself that doesn't need permission, that doesn't need validation, that doesn't need to be understood. You'll move in silence, and your results will make the noise. You must train yourself to fall in love with the process, with the grind, with the repetition. Discipline isn't about perfection, it's about progress. You'll stumble, you'll fail, you'll have moments of weakness, but if your discipline is rooted in purpose, you'll rise again. Because discipline backed by vision is unstoppable. It doesn't collapse under pressure, it adapts, it adjusts, it continues. The world celebrates talent, but what really wins is discipline. Talent fades, excitement fades, motivation fades. But discipline remains. It's the rope you hold onto when the storm hits. It's the compass that keeps you aligned when your emotions try to pull you off track. And if you master it, if you make it a non-negotiable, you will build a version of yourself that nothing can break. Train your discipline like a muscle. Stretch it. Test it. Use it. Don't wait to feel ready. Don't wait for support. Don't wait for perfect conditions. Start with what you have. Do what you said you would do, even when no one's looking. That's how you earn your own respect. And once you respect yourself, you stop settling. You stop shrinking. You stop giving your power away. Discipline is not the enemy of freedom. It is its birthplace. When you master yourself, you free yourself. And when you're free, you can rebuild anything, even yourself, especially yourself. The past is a powerful teacher, but it's a dangerous master. Too many people remain trapped by who they used to be, by the mistakes they made, the pain they suffered, and the labels others gave them. They wear their history like chains, believing that because something happened before, it must define them forever. But the truth is, the past only holds power if you continue to feed it. To rebuild yourself, you must first break free from the grip of yesterday. You are not who you were. You are who you choose to become, moment by moment. But that choice requires courage. It requires you to confront the shadows of your past without letting them dictate your future. Your old identity may feel familiar, even comfortable, but comfort is the enemy of change. You cannot step into a new chapter while clinging to the last one. You cannot become the new you while defending the old one. Growth demands surrender. It demands that you let go of what no longer serves you, even if it once protected you. Forgiving your past self is one of the hardest, yet most liberating things you will ever do. You are not perfect. You've made mistakes. You've hurt others. You've hurt yourself. You've believed lies, settled for less, and stayed in places you should have walked away from. But you must remember this. You did the best you could with the awareness you had at the time. Now, with new awareness, you get to do better. That is evolution. That is grace. Holding on to regret, shame, and guilt only keeps you anchored to the version of yourself you're trying to outgrow. You can't drive forward while staring in the rearview mirror. It's time to release it, not because the past didn't matter, but because your future matters more. Let it go. Let go of the names they call you. Let go of the times you let yourself down. Let go of the old story that says you're not enough. That story is outdated. You're writing a new one now. To truly rebuild yourself, you must become ruthless about your boundaries, not just with others, but with yourself. Every time your mind tries to pull you back into old patterns of thinking, patterns of self-doubt, of self-sabotage, of victimhood, you must interrupt it. You must remind yourself, that was then. This is now, and I am no longer that person. This is how you take your power back, not in giant leaps, but in daily decisions, to not repeat what broke you. The process of release will be uncomfortable. There will be grief, not just for the pain, but for the version of you that survived it. You may have built your identity around your wounds, around your trauma, around being the one who endured. And letting that go might feel like losing a part of yourself. But you're not losing, you're evolving. You're not abandoning your past. You're choosing not to be ruled by it. Freedom comes when you no longer flinch at your own history. When you can look at where you came from without shame. When you can hold your past in one hand and your future in the other, and choose to build forward. Because that's where your strength truly lies. Not in pretending nothing happened, not in erasing your history, but in rising from it, in using it as fuel, not chains. You are not a prisoner of your past unless you allow yourself to be. Every day is a chance to rebuild, to rewrite, to return to your core. The world may try to remind you of who you used to be. Your environment may tempt you back into old cycles, but you are not obligated to stay the same. you can transform. You can transcend. You can be unrecognizable to the version of you that once settled. Take a deep breath. Thank your past for its lessons. Honor the strength it took to survive it. And then let it go. Burn the old blueprint. Clear the debris. Because what you are building now is not based on who you were. It's based on who you are becoming. And who you are becoming is stronger, wiser, freer. The past is a chapter, but it is not the whole book. And the best pages have yet to be written. Being misunderstood is a cost of transformation. The moment you decide to grow, to shed your skin and rebuild yourself alone, you'll notice something unexpected. People begin to fall away, not because you push them, but because your silence, your solitude, your new direction no longer mirrors their expectations. You start to see that what once felt like connection was actually convenience, that many relationships were rooted in who you used to be, not who you're becoming, and so they go, slowly, quietly, some with bitterness, some with confusion, but almost all with discomfort. And this is where the loneliness creeps in, not from the lack of people, but from the absence of understanding. You're no longer the version of you that fit into their story. You've stepped into unfamiliar territory, into a version of yourself they can't define, can't control, can't label, and that unsettles people. Growth threatens comfort. Your discipline becomes a mirror to their chaos. Your boundaries expose their lack of them. Your silence speaks louder than their noise. They call you distant, cold, arrogant, changed. And they're right, you have changed. But not out of ego, out of necessity, out of survival, out of a deep inner knowing that who you were was not the final form. And while they mourn the version of you that played small, you are building one that stands tall, even if it means standing alone. Being misunderstood is not a punishment. It is a sign that you're no longer choosing validation over truth, that you're done molding yourself to fit in spaces that drain you, that you finally understand the difference between connection and attachment. One liberates you, the other enslaves you. When you stop performing for approval, when you stop explaining every move, you realize how much of your life was spent trying to be seen by people who were never looking at the real you. This phase of isolation isn't permanent, but it is essential. You need this time alone not to become bitter, but to become clear, to refine your values, to rewire your thoughts, to build without interference. Because growth, real growth, demands a season of silence, a chapter where your progress is internal, invisible, unvalidated, where your only audience is you, and your only applause is the sound of your own discipline. There will be days when you question this path, when you crave someone who understands, when you wish you could return to the old life just for a moment of comfort. But remind yourself, you didn't come this far to go back to what broke you. You didn't endure the unraveling of your old self just to be understood by those committed to misunderstanding you. You came here to become, and becoming requires the courage to be unseen, unheard, and unapplauded, until you no longer need any of it to feel whole. One day, your silence will speak volumes. Your results will echo louder than any explanation. The life you build will become your answer. And those who couldn't understand your journey will either admire your discipline or reveal that they were never meant to walk beside you. Either way, you win. Because the misunderstanding filtered out the noise. It revealed who sees you and who only saw your usefulness. If you're feeling isolated, misunderstood, even abandoned, let that be confirmation not of your failure, but of your evolution. The people meant for your future will recognize your frequency, not your past. They won't need explanations, just presence. They won't fear your silence, they'll respect it. But until they arrive, honor the loneliness, sit with it, learn from it. Because in that space, free from distraction, you are meeting yourself again. And that reunion between who you were and who you're becoming is the most sacred relationship you'll ever experience. You don't need everyone to understand your transformation. You just need the courage to keep going, especially when no one does. Because in the end, the misunderstood become the unstoppable. When you rebuild yourself alone, something begins to shift within you. A deeper connection forms with your intuition. That quiet inner voice that once got drowned out by noise, by opinions, by expectations, starts to grow louder, clearer, sharper. Because in solitude, you're not reacting to the world, you're listening to yourself. And in that silence you begin to hear what your soul has been trying to say all along. This is who you are. This is who you were meant to be. Most people live disconnected from themselves. They've outsourced their direction to others, their worth tied to approval, their identity shaped by circumstance. But the act of detaching from the crowd and going inward allows you to tap into something rare and powerful. It's not knowledge, not logic, it's intuition, a knowing that doesn't need explanation, a compass that doesn't need permission. It's the gut feeling that says turn left, even when everyone else is going right. And when you start trusting that, you stop asking for directions from people who are lost. This reconnection isn't immediate. It begins in discomfort. At first, the silence feels empty. The absence of external validation creates doubt. You start questioning everything, your choices, your pace, your path. But over time, that silence becomes sacred. You stop fearing it and begin depending on it. Because in that space, without influence, you make your clearest decisions. And for the first time, they are your own. You'll notice something powerful when you operate from this space. Your movements become deliberate. You no longer rush. You no longer chase. You observe. You calculate. You strike when it matters. This is not hesitation, it's precision. You become like water, calm, quiet, and unshakable, yet capable of cutting through stone. That's the gift of inner clarity. You don't move for attention, you move for purpose. You don't speak to be heard, you speak when it's necessary. And this level of awareness makes you unstoppable. Society teaches us to ignore our intuition, to follow trends, to chase what others say is success, to suppress our instincts for the sake of fitting in. But when you're rebuilding alone, there's no longer a need to conform. You become your own standard. And your inner voice becomes louder than the noise of the world. That voice will tell you when to walk away from what no longer serves you. It will tell you when to rest, when to push, when to pivot, and it will guide you toward people, places, and paths that are aligned with your truth, not your trauma. This is where your real power begins. Because a person connected to their intuition is unshakable. They can walk away from opportunities that look good but feel wrong. They can say no without guilt. They can wait without anxiety. They can lead without needing to be followed. Their actions come from alignment, not desperation. And in a world full of people pretending to be confident, those who truly trust themselves become magnetic. And yes, the world may still misunderstand you. People might question your silence, your pace, your choices, but you won't need to defend them, because you'll know deep within that you're exactly where you're meant to be. You'll stop explaining yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. You'll stop seeking reassurance for decisions that feel right in your soul, because once you're aligned with your intuition, you no longer need consensus. You move with certainty. Protect your solitude, guard your silence, and trust that inner whisper, even when it doesn't make sense on paper. The world rewards logic, but your life will be guided by something deeper, something ancient, something yours. And when others look at your life and ask how you did it, you won't have a blueprint. You'll just say, I listened. Rebuilding yourself alone is not just about becoming stronger or smarter or more successful. It's about becoming aligned. It's about returning to yourself. And when you operate from that place where your mind is clear, your heart is open, and your intuition is your guide, there is nothing you cannot face. There is nothing you cannot rebuild. In the journey of destroying the old you and rebuilding yourself alone, you face discomfort, solitude, and misunderstanding, but within these challenges lies profound transformation. Letting go of your past frees you from its hold. Embracing solitude sharpens your intuition and strengthens your resolve. Though the world may not always understand, this path is about reclaiming your power, your clarity, and your true self. Rebuilding alone is not a sign of weakness, but the ultimate act of courage and self-love. When you rise from the ashes of who you were, unshackled and aligned, you become unstoppable, because the strongest foundation you can build is the one laid by your own hands and guided by your inner wisdom.